Right now at noon, continuing coverage on the deaths of two UW-Platteville students, what the school and investigators have to say at this hour. Plus, President Trump makes a push for his spending bill, how House Republicans are battling amongst themselves over it. This is News 3 Now at noon. Thanks for joining us. I'm Josh Breiter. Continuing coverage of an apparent murder-suicide at UW-Platteville, where two 22-year-old women were found dead. Investigators say the women were killed from that incident Monday afternoon at Wilgus Hall. Police found both women with gunshot wounds in what they describe as an isolated and targeted incident. Other students were ordered to shelter in place and later had to evacuate the residence hall. Kelsey Martin of Beloit died at the hospital. She graduated a week ago with a degree in psychology and served as the assistant resident director at Wilgus Hall. Police say Hallie Helms of Baraboo shot herself and died at the scene. News 3 Now spoke with two students who went to high school with Martin. They say the lack of information from officials fueled fear and rumors since no one knows what happened between the two women.
A lot of the things we heard were just rumors that were going around, and I think that that's kind of hurtful. I think that if they would have said a few things, tried to keep the information truthful, it would have kind of quelled that a little bit.
Officials say they do not believe anyone else was involved in the incident. They are asking people with additional information to contact the UW-Platteville Police Department. Anyone needing mental health support can access walk-in urgent counseling sessions at the university from 8 to 4 for the rest of this week. A toll-free emotional support line and the free UW Mental Health 24/7 line are also available. Students can also use Mantra Health for support. Final exams are canceled this week. You can get the latest updates to the story sent straight to your phone with the Channel 3000 News app. With the app, you'll receive breaking news push alerts as they happen. It is free to download. Just search Channel 3000 in your phone's app store. A 10-year-old boy is dead following a UTV crash over the weekend in Richland County. According to the DNR, the crash happened on private property Saturday in the township of Dayton, just southwest of Richland Center. The boy and his passenger were allegedly riding a small UTV when he took a sharp turn, causing the vehicle to tip over onto the driver's side. The boy was not wearing a helmet. An investigation into that crash is ongoing. A man is dead following a three-vehicle crash in Beloit last night. That crash happened just after 7 on Madison Road. Police say a blue sedan rear-ended a tan sedan, sending it into oncoming traffic where it was hit by another vehicle. The driver of the tan sedan, a 58-year-old man, was taken to a local hospital where he later died. The driver of the blue sedan, a 46-year-old Beloit man, was cited for following too closely, operating a motor vehicle without insurance, and not having his vehicle registered. 8 people are without their homes after an apartment fire in Beloit. Fire crews were sent to Burton Street early Tuesday morning. There they found heavy smoke coming from an apartment unit. One person inside was taken to the hospital. The American Red Cross is assisting the 8 residents that have been displaced. Well, we have another dreary day ahead. First Floor meteorologist Jacob Montesano has your certified most accurate forecast, and we just can't shake these showers, Jacob.
No, for the second day in a row, we're seeing light rain continue across our area with those very cool temperatures. At the very least, today is not as windy, but that's about the only good news, at least for right now, as we're still seeing some scattered showers across the region. We are expected to continue to see light rain for at least parts of the area, really throughout the entire day. Now, we're not going to see any individual locations see that rain at a non-stop pace. Right now, it looks like the best chance of rain going forward will be for areas east of Madison, but we still could see some scattered showers for the western portion of our area into the early overnight hours. Again, though, it is going to be very light, and then it will clear out throughout the night, and as we get towards sunrise Thursday, it looks like most of our area will be dry. As I mentioned, temperatures are also very chilly, upper 40s to lower 50s, pretty similar to yesterday. Again, the only difference is that we're really not seeing any strong winds. So throughout the afternoon, temperatures not really going to change too much. Upper 40s, lower 50s for your high temperatures. Again, mostly cloudy skies even when it's not raining, and we are going to continue to see the chance of light rain throughout the evening. But once we get to the overnight hours, it'll begin clearing up, and the cloudy skies will help those temperatures not be too cold overnight, as lows will drop into the middle 40s. Still below normal, but much closer to the average low compared to the high temperature is to the average high. So definitely still going to see those cool temperatures, but we are going to warm up over the next couple of days with a pretty nice Memorial Day weekend ahead. Details on that coming up a bit later.
All right, Jacob. Thank you. Congressman Derek Van Orden wants to get rid of the state's spring elections. The congressman told the Wisconsin Eye not enough Republicans vote and the spring elections are inefficient. He wants to remove spring races like judicial and school board elections and fold them into the regular midterm or presidential cycles. Van Orden says holding multiple elections each year creates voter fatigue and wastes money. State lawmakers would have to approve any changes to state election laws. Right now, state lawmakers are working to attract more film production to Wisconsin. The Badger State is about one of 13 states that don't offer a tax incentive for TV and film projects. A new bill would create a state film office and provide a $10 million annual tax incentive for productions that film and hire crews in Wisconsin. Yesterday, the Senate Committee on Utilities and Tourism held a public listening session on the bill. The future of President Trump's so-called big beautiful spending bill remains uncertain, even though he made a rare visit to Capitol Hill to try and push it through. Weijia is at the White House.
Trump met with House Republicans for over 1 hour.
That was love in that room. There was no shouting. I think it was a meeting of love.
But that love may be conditional.
I think anybody that didn't support it as a Republican, I would consider to be a fool.
The president said the legislation is very important for his legacy. Several campaign promises are wrapped up in it, like tax cuts for workers.
Listen to this one. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime.
The proposal also includes adding $350 billion to border security, deportation, and defense, plus spending cuts. Some holdouts are pushing for bigger state and local tax breaks, while conservatives want to trim entitlements programs. Sources who were inside the room tell CBS News Trump warned them, don't F around with Medicaid.
Here's what I want on Medicaid. We're not touching anything. All I want is one thing. 3 words. We don't want any waste, fraud, or abuse. Very simple.
House Speaker Johnson has said work requirements would be implemented. If that happens, the Congressional Budget Office estimates 7.3 million people could lose coverage by 2034. Johnson is confident his caucus will pass the bill.
We are right on track to deliver, and that's what you'll see this House do this week.
Also in the bill is $25 billion for President Trump's and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth's new defense initiative, the Golden Dome, which would be a missile defense shield around the U.S. and apparently Canada. Trump says it would be completed by the end of his term at a price tag of $175 billion. Weijia Jiang, CBS News, the White House.
Now an update in the case of a deportation flight immigration lawyers say was headed to South Sudan. A federal judge has ordered the Department of Homeland Security to maintain custody of the migrants until a hearing today. This comes after lawyers accused the Trump administration of deporting Vietnamese and Burmese migrants to South Sudan in violation of a court order issued in April. According to the migrants' lawyers, at least a dozen migrants were abruptly moved to South Sudan this week. The Department of Homeland Security hasn't publicly confirmed deportations to South Sudan, which is on the cusp of another civil war. Today, President Trump is hosting South Africa's president at the White House. This visit could pose a tipping point for the two countries, which are in a diplomatic feud. This trip comes about a week after a group of white South Africans arrived in the U.S. with refugee status. Trump and Elon Musk, who was born and raised in South Africa, claim they were being persecuted back home. The Trump administration has criticized an expropriation law which empowers South Africa's government to take land and redistribute it with no obligation to pay compensation in some instances. Still ahead for us this afternoon, where the FDA and CDC are investigating a new salmonella outbreak linked to cucumbers, plus what a recent survey is saying about people's summer travel plans.
The FDA and CDC are investigating a new salmonella outbreak linked to cucumbers sold by Florida-based company Bedner Growers, Inc. and distributed by Fresh Start Produce Sales, Inc. At least 26 people have been sickened in 15 states. At least 9 people have been hospitalized. Restaurants and stores that sold the affected produce are urged to notify their customers. Tainted cucumbers from the same grower were also linked to hundreds of illnesses last year. More Americans are planning to go on vacation this summer, and many say they'll take work with them. According to a recent survey from Deloitte, 53% of respondents say they expect to travel and stay in paid lodging, up from 48% last year. Nearly a quarter say they'll work during their longest trip. The study found that more Americans, 28% compared to 18% the month before, say they plan to take shorter, more frequent trips instead of splurging on one long vacation. And according to Wallet Hub, 58% of Americans plan to attend a barbecue this Memorial Day weekend, with the average cookout cost coming to just over $31. Kroger is getting in on the holiday weekend, offering a backyard grilling bundle that the company says will cost around $3.50 per person. The bundle includes store-brand quarter-pound beef burgers and buns, Bush's baked beans, and Oscar Mayer hot dogs. That's your CBS News Money Watch report. For more, log on to cbsmoneywatch.com. At the CBS Broadcast Center, I'm Jesse Mitchell.
Let's take a look at the stock report at the noon hour. The Dow is down 347 points, NASDAQ is up 50 points, and the S&P 500 is down 2 points. Our call for action volunteers are in the building taking your consumer complaints and taking action on your behalf. Remember, you can call for action at 608-270-2833 or submit a claim at channel3000.com/call for action. Hey, we have a treat for you ahead. Pam joins us in studio with the Farm Report next, and Jacob returns with the First Warn forecast. And later on Live at 4, money for Narcan and treatment centers have helped countless Americans overcome addiction. How federal cuts could impact that. Welcome back to News 3 Now at noon. We have Farm Babe Pam Yankee in person. Look at us. They're putting us in a room together.
I know. That is dangerous.
It is dangerous. I said we should have our own show.
I know. Off camera, though. Off camera.
Yeah, look out, look out. So what do we got going on today at Farm News?
So I thought I'd bring you a little update on what's happening as far as new leadership in Wisconsin. Actually, not necessarily new, but people we're familiar with. Congratulations to Sandy Chalmers. She's back at the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Farm Service Agency office leading the state. Sandy had been there previously, and of course, before that, served at the Wisconsin Department of Ag, Trade, and Consumer Protection in several different executive positions. Sandy Chalmers back as the Executive Director of Wisconsin State Farm Service Agency offices. Another face that's not necessarily new, but new to the position. There's my gal, Danielle Envik. She is the new Executive Director at the Wisconsin Farmers Union up in Chippewa Falls. She's actually taking over for the current Executive Director. Danielle, a Farmers Union member herself since she was a kid, and also previous communications director at the Wisconsin Farmers Union. So there you go. Danielle Envik is currently transitioning with Julie Bomar, and she is going to be finished at the end of this month. Congratulations and welcome back, Danielle. Also, a News 3 viewer had asked about the latest with the New World Screw Worm. I've got to say that really slow. And let me tell you, it is not in the United States yet, but it is a big concern for the cattle industry. What this is basically a pest that if it gets into an animal system, it ultimately will kill them. Now, here's the hard part. The only way that we can stop this pest from reproducing is through a sterile fly. Sterile flies that are only available in Panama, believe it or not. And the facility there having a tough time keeping up on demand. So right now in Washington, D.C., cattle producers bringing that plea to leaders asking for support on creating our own sterile fly production facility in the United States. So there you go for a Wednesday.
That's a mouthful.
Don't say it fast.
I know. Learning something new.
Always, always.
All right, well, thanks for joining us in studio today. Good to see you. We're going to check in now with First Warn meteorologist Jacob Montesano for your First Warn weather.
Thanks, Josh. Here's a look at the 3 things you need to know. We're going to continue to see showers through the rest of today, but they are going to clear out overnight. We're still going to see some below normal temperatures, especially for some of the overnight hours, as some frost is possible both Thursday night and Friday night. But it is going to warm up a bit for Memorial Day weekend. Highs are expected to get easily into the 60s. Still a little bit below normal, but a lot better compared to today. So here's a look at the current radar. Still seeing those light showers, and we've seen a lot of this over the last 24 to 36 hours. Let's take a look at the amount of rainfall that we've seen. This is all radar estimated, so it is possible that the actual totals are a little bit different, but everyone saw about 1 to 2 inches of rain, some much needed rain for sure. And because we didn't see anything extend above, the 2-inch threshold, we probably are not going to be dealing with a lot of flooding concerns, at least for now. So overall, the rain definitely was definitely some good news, but obviously it has been very messy outside and fairly unpleasant as well. So looking at the rainfall forecast again, we are going to continue to see some scattered showers throughout the day, especially for areas east of Madison, but the western portion of our area still could see some rain before the system is all done. For the overnight hours, it's going to start out scattered and then very isolated once we get towards early Thursday morning, and then by sunrise Thursday, we should be dry, although we are going to remain relatively cloudy, especially in the morning, maybe some clearer skies later in the day, but we're not expecting any precipitation at that point. Now looking at the temperature forecast, not going to change much overnight. Well, they'll drop a few degrees, but only into the middle and lower 40s. And then for tomorrow, it will feel a lot better. Highs are expected to get into the 60s for a lot of the area. Places to the east may still be in the upper 50s, but I do want to talk about the overnight hours Thursday and Friday, because we could be seeing some areas get close to the upper 30s, especially for places east of Madison, which could create some minor frost out there. But it looks like the better chance of that frost will occur Friday night, as we'll have similar daytime highs as what we're going to see tomorrow. But again, we could see those temperatures possibly dropping into the lower 40 to upper 30 range by the time we get to Saturday morning. But once we get to the weekend, the high temperatures are expected to get into the middle 60s, maybe a few lower 70s out there, and the overnight lows should stay in the middle to upper 40s, so not as much of a frost concern once we get to the weekend, with partly sunny skies Saturday, a little bit more cloud cover Sunday, maybe a small rain chance, although it looks very likely that if it does rain, it will be pretty light, nothing compared to what we've seen over the last 24 hours. And in general, we're not going to see a lot of rain moving forward once that rain finally completely clears out. We're looking very dry for the start of the weekend. Again, some small rain chances are possible on Sunday. That may continue for Memorial Day as well, but it looks more and more likely that, again, it's not going to be a big system. The rain chance does look to be pretty small. So as we take a full look at the 7 to 10 day forecast, again, some frost is possible tomorrow night and Friday night, as low temperatures could get into the upper 30s. And then as we get towards the weekend, again, those overnight lows not as cold, as highs will stay in the middle 60s through Tuesday. And then take a look at the middle of next week. We'll finally get back to the 70s, and it is possible that next Friday could get into the lower 80s as low temperatures are expected to continue to rise. So we're still going to be below normal through about Tuesday, but once we get to the weekend, it certainly will feel very comfortable. It's just when the average high is in the lower 70s, and we saw 80s last week, the 60s definitely may feel a little bit on the chillier side. But then again, we're also barely in the 50s today, so it may feel warmer. It certainly will feel warmer compared to that. So we are going to rebound just a little bit. Once we get to tomorrow, it should be a lot better. Just got to get through the rest of today.
Honestly, I'm just looking forward to some sunshine, even at 60 degrees. That's going to feel amazing. Yeah,
I will say, though, I was telling Alex that this is probably one of the best alert days we could get, because we need the rainfall, and, there's not a lot of danger out there with the rain, so definitely could use the rainfall. Obviously, when you're stepping outside, though, you're like, let's get this out of here.
Absolutely, yeah. My yard's looking good, though. Can't
exactly.
complain about that. Thanks, Jacob. Let's see what Howard's working on in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
Today we're talking trash. Not that kind of trash, but the good kind. It'll all make sense. I promise. With Memorial Day right around the corner, we're on the home stretch of planning what we should serve when the gang gets together. And if you're the one in charge of making a side dish, then you might want to pay close attention, because today we're making a pasta salad that uses anything you have on hand. The first thing we do is cook a package of rainbow pasta until it's tender. Once it's cool, we start adding all sorts of stuff. Everything from cauliflower and broccoli to red onions and chunks of cheddar. We even added sliced pepperoni and black olives to give it more flavor. You see, this is one of those, what they call garbage recipes, where you can add whatever you have on hand. This way, the stuff that's just sitting in your fridge will go to good use and not end up in the trash. Then we toss the whole thing with some Italian dressing and pop it in the fridge. And don't let how simple it is fool you. You see, the dressing brings all the flavors together, and the pepperoni and the cheese add a nice surprise. To get the recipe for what we call garbage pasta salad, go online, and while you're there, make sure you check out our free e-cookbook that's loaded with our best deli salads. I'm Howard in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a simple way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
Here's Jacob with a final check.
Thanks, Josh. We're going to be seeing that rain continue for the rest of today, but once we get to tomorrow, we are going to be fairly dry for the rest of the forecast as those temperatures begin warming up. 60s will return for Memorial Day weekend, and then next week we are going to see the 70s return by the middle and end of the week, so warmer temperatures are just around the corner. We will be dealing with the possibility of some frost as well, though, for Thursday and Friday nights, but not as much of a concern by next week.
All right, Jacob, thank you. Thanks for joining us today at noon. Have a great afternoon. We're back with more Live at 4.